And that's why I spoke about the issue of abortion. I think Psalms 139 settles it for me, that God knew you in the womb.
Yeah.
He cared about you in the womb. John the Baptist in the womb leaps towards Jesus.
Right.
So I think that's significant. But some people, say, well, there's not a specific verse. Well, there is in the Didache, chapter 2, verse 2, where it's specifically addressed. And this is important. So many of the modern cultural issues that we're facing are not addressed in the Gospels until we face the Gentile world, because Jews weren't wondering, is the fetus valuable?
Right.
It was, because Genesis 1, you are created in the image of God, and every child is such a blessing, especially in that culture. Now, not in Roman culture, not in Greek culture, especially if it was a girl. It's terrible. And one of the reasons the church grew so radically, and a lot of people don't realize this, is so rich people could afford abortions. They'd have a doctor, they knew how to do it, but most people just had to give birth to the child and then they would leave it at the dump. And what Christians did is they would go to the dump and take these babies. Well, guess what happened? White families had black babies.
Yeah.
Black families had white babies. And people started to look at that and they went, wait a minute. And all of a sudden, the church is multi-ethnic instantaneously because they thought, and so where does that come from? So the Didache is, we don't know how old it is. Some apostolic fathers thought it was scripture. So there was a debate on which books are the Bible and which are not. But the Didache means teaching. It means here's instructions for how you live your Christian life. Like, I'm a Christian. How am I supposed to live? And so chapter 2, verse 2 talks about not corrupting young boys, which is homosexuality. And then it says, and do not kill a baby when it's a fetus. So fetus comes from the Latin. So preborn child, or immediately after, which was the practice, because only wealthy people or someone that could afford an expert to take the life of a child. So you just had your baby and you left them. And that's gross and that's wrong. And that's why I gave that verse, because Christians need to know, look, Christians have been struggling with how do I live out my faith in a non-Christian world for 2,000 years. And so people needed to know 2,000 years. And we don't know if that book comes to us from Egypt or Syria, but it's as Christianity goes out, it's like, wait, hey, everybody's killing babies. Is that what we do? No, that's not what we do, because God cares about the child. And it's so implicit for everybody listening. It means the unborn child before it's born and immediately after. You don't do either of those. And so, in California, that's on the bill. They're wrestling with that. And so, and
that's just the heart of God.
Yeah.
I mean, Psalm 139, like you said, John the Baptist, Jeremiah.
Yeah,
amen. Even in the beginning of Ephesians, when he's talking about before,
yeah,
there was this plan for you before. And I just don't think that, that conception is random.
No,
I just think that's God. I mean, they can't, I think it's God. And if God put the baby there, I personally believe that the baby is supposed to be there.
Yeah, amen.
And as an African-American person, I've shared this, I believe, before. I mean, 70 million since, the 70s. That's voting power. That's economic power. That's all the things. And in the hood, they recruit these girls. And so we're not going to go into that. I know that they give them low dose birth control pills so that they could possibly get pregnant and come back for an abortion. I know they turn off the lights. When the ambulances come, they make them turn off the sirens and the lights because they don't want the other girls in there to get scared. And it's really, at least in my city, it is not pro-choice. It is pro-death. And they don't want to give the girls a choice.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's my beef with abortion and African Americans and the way that it was set up to be so like genocide for our people. Lots of people don't like to hear that. But I say the first stop on the systemic racism, if you believe in that, I think the first stop on that train is Planned Parenthood. Get rid of it. That's me. Sorry if you're mad at me now. I still love you.
I think everybody loves you. No, Donna, I don't want you to apologize to anyone. I mean, I think that, part of the reason I want you on this show is because I think you provide not only diversity ethnically, but I think diversity of thought. And that's so important. And I think that as Christians, we should share what we feel and think And I think that you should do that, in love. I know that you care about these girls deeply that do not have an alternative perspective. And babies are such a precious thing. I remember a couple of years ago, it was actually a young African-American woman in our church who was considering abortion. And she just said, what do I do? I said, have the baby and give it to me. I was like, there's probably 100 women in this church that I know personally that are praying and they can't get pregnant. And they're asking God, they've spent enormous amounts of money trying to adopt a baby. And you can provide that. And, especially for Christians, the thing that breaks my heart is sin never fixes sin. And so a lot of girls, they had sex and they feel guilty and they don't want their parents to know. Look, stop living for your parents. Stop living for me. Live for God. God knows. God sees. And, let that baby live. And then let me say this to, all the couples, so many, women in our church, they did this when they were young. Right. They were naive. They have so much regret and pain. And let me just say this. You got to give that to Jesus. He died on a bloody, horrific cross for a reason. And you just got to trust Christ with that. Because I know that is such a huge place of pain for so many women in our church who believe the lie that I can just do this. It's just a procedure. And then every year they still do the math. Yeah. Because listen to me, you're not a mom when the baby is born. You're a mom when you become pregnant. Right. And I learned that with our kids. I remember doing the ultrasound and, learning that something might be wrong. I tell you, I was having lunch yesterday with a pastor and he told me they did an ultrasound on his baby and he was missing a part of his brain. And the doctor said, look, there should be something here. And if it was there, we would see it. And, they counseled them to terminate the pregnancy. Right. And so, his son is 3 years old and is missing a part of his brain, but can function. And so it baffles them. They don't understand it. It doesn't make scientific sense, but they have a beautiful boy. And I know not every story ends that way. Right. So let me say that, but I just want to, just really, really pray about it and seek the Lord's counsel. Yeah. And, science is going to say one thing and Christian parents have to make a decision, not just on science, but hear from the Spirit of God. We have to listen to both. And so it's a tough issue out there. It is. And I love the girls that find themselves in a tough situation. And I have love and grace for the women in our church who, if they could go back, would make such a different decision. I mean,
even that's part of my passion about it is the grief that I've seen it brings to women and the pain that they endure after they regret and these cycles of, just regret and anger and frustration. And like you said, they count the days, and so we love you. God has something. Yeah.
And to our liberal audience, I'm not here to make women do anything. I want to help them make the best decision they can. And for me, that, that's always going to be life. But just like that woman, she left our church and aborted that baby and I saw her the next week and it broke my heart. But I'm called to love her and try to counsel her. And she had other kids that we now have to raise. And, I have to try to teach about the love of God. It's a difficult thing. The church is full of extraordinarily broken people. But by God's grace, we're all becoming beautiful. And so it's a difficult thing for all of us. And so, I'm praying for everybody, but, just remember, the person is more important than the issue you're arguing about. Absolutely. It's always the person. It's not the policy. It's the person. And you got to care about that person because, we all find ourselves in situations where maybe we're not as moral as we think we are. And so we need to have grace, but also give counsel and wisdom for people who find themselves in tough spots. So love you, Donna. Always share your heart. I don't ever want you to be censored on the show. I want you to be real. And
I try to be real, guys.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're trying. I think
I'm real.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for watching. If this material is helping you to further your authentic relationship with Jesus Christ, I want to encourage you to move from being someone who watches content to someone who participates and helps give towards this content. I want you to know that no amount is too small. Jesus Christ himself makes the biggest deal out of the smallest gift. And so whether that's $1 or $5 or $10, every dollar helps us in our mission to reaching the world with this vision of authenticity. So if God is prompting you, if the Holy Spirit is moving you towards generosity to Sandals Church, I want to encourage you to go to donate.sc. And here's all we ask. Give whatever God asks you to give, and we will just pray over that and ask God to bless that so that we can reach more people like you with this life-changing message.